Some of the things women say sound harmless, even sweet, but hidden underneath are red flags most men never catch until it's too late. You've heard her say things that didn't sit right with you. You couldn't explain it, but something in your gut twisted the moment those words left her mouth. You brushed it off, told yourself you were overreacting, being too sensitive, maybe even insecure. But deep down, you felt it, that quiet, sinking feeling that something wasn't right. If this is you, the guy who keeps replaying her words in his head at 2 a.m., trying to make sense of what she really meant, you're not crazy. You're just a man trying to understand why the woman you cared for suddenly sounds like a stranger. Maybe it started small. She said, "You're too much sometimes." You laughed it off. Then came, "I just need space," or "You deserve someone better." And before you knew it, the woman who once wanted all your attention now makes you feel like you're walking on eggshells just to keep her around. You tell yourself it's just a phase, that she's stressed, that maybe you said something wrong. But the truth is, the words she chooses aren't random. They reveal where her heart really is. And sometimes those words are warnings disguised as softness. Maybe this feels familiar. You used to feel powerful around her, confident, alive. Now you feel small, uncertain, like no matter what you do, it's never enough. You've gone from being her priority to being her backup plan, from the man she admired to the one she corrects, criticizes, or compares. And every time she says something that cuts deep, you try to rationalize it. You tell yourself it's love, that she'll change, that if you're patient, she'll remember who you were to her. But the more you hold on, the less of yourself you recognize. If this is you, brother, understand this. Sometimes it's not what she does that tells you it's over. It's what she says. Her words are clues. And once you learn to hear them for what they truly mean, not what you want them to mean, everything changes. You stop chasing closure. You stop explaining your worth. You stop fighting for someone who already decided to walk away emotionally. Because the truth is, the moment she starts saying certain things, she's not just testing your patience, she's testing your self-respect. So ask yourself, what if the things she's saying right now aren't random at all? What if they're her way of telling you, without saying it outright, that it's time for you to leave? Most men get this wrong, not because they're weak, but because they've been taught to misunderstand what love actually is. They think love means tolerance, that being a good man means being endlessly patient, endlessly forgiving, endlessly understanding. But what they don't realize is that this mindset quietly destroys their power. When a woman starts saying certain things that chip away at your confidence, question your worth, or make you feel like you have to prove yourself, most men don't walk away. They stay, they negotiate, they try to fix it, and that's where everything starts to fall apart. You see, women don't lose respect for men because of one mistake or one bad day. They lose respect when they feel his center collapsing, when they sense that he's more afraid of losing her than losing himself. That's the real test happening behind those words. When she says, "You're overreacting," or "You're too emotional," or "You're not like you used to be," what she's really doing is watching how grounded you are and who you are. The first masculine principle you need to remember is this: never let her words shake your frame, because the moment your emotions start chasing hers, the balance shifts, and she no longer feels safe with you. Not safe as in physically protected, but safe as in emotionally led. A woman can only follow a man who knows where he stands, even when she's testing his limits. That's why the calm man, the one who can hear disrespect, manipulation, or emotional chaos and not get pulled into it, always commands the most respect. He doesn't react, he notices. He doesn't argue, he decides. He's not cruel or detached, but he knows when something is beneath him. He knows when a conversation is crossed from misunderstanding into a pattern that corrodes his peace. And that brings us to the second masculine principle. Your peace is your power. The moment a woman feels she can steal your peace with her words, she starts to see you differently, because at her core, she's not looking for a man who will absorb her chaos. She's looking for a man who can anchor her through it. But if she senses that she can manipulate that peace test it and twist it without consequence, she'll lose attraction faster than you can explain what went wrong. Most men think staying is strength. They think endurance equals love, but sometimes walking away is the most loving thing you can do, not for her, but for yourself, because you can't fix a dynamic that's built on disrespect. You can't heal a relationship where your boundaries are treated like suggestions. If she's telling you things that belittle you, that twist your intentions, that make you doubt yourself, that's not connection, that's control. And control always disguises itself as care. She'll say things like, "I just want you to understand me," or "You never listen." But what she's really saying is, "I want to see how much of yourself you'll give up to keep me here." You have to be the man who recognizes when the words don't match the energy, when affection starts feeling like a transaction, when love starts feeling like a performance. The men who master their lives, in relationships, in business, and everything, all have one thing in common. They know when to walk away. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in certainty. Because a man who knows his value doesn't need to convince anyone else of it. So when she starts saying the things you're about to hear in this video, don't argue, don't explain, don't prove, just listen, because those words will reveal everything you need to know about who she is and whether she still deserves access to you. He sat in his car long after she walked away, the sound of the door closing still echoing through the cold night air. The dashboard lights painted his hands a faint blue as they gripped the steering wheel, too tight, like he was holding on to something that was already gone. Her words kept replaying, looping over and over in his mind. "You've changed. I just need to find myself. You deserve someone better." At first they sounded gentle, almost kind, but the more he replayed them, the more they burned. Each phrase was a slow pull of the thread that had held them together. He could still smell her perfume on the passenger seat, still hear the soft echo of her laugh from months ago. Everything around him felt familiar, yet hollow. He stared out the windshield, watching rain slide down the glass like tears he didn't want to admit were his own. Inside, his chest was a storm. Anger, confusion, hope, denial, all crashing against each other in silence. Maybe she's right, he thought. Maybe I really did change. But a quieter voice whispered back, or maybe she just stopped appreciating the man you became. He thought about the times he'd ignored the signs, the tone in her voice, the distant eyes, the subtle digs wrapped in affection. He kept telling himself it would get better if he just tried harder. But now, sitting there in that stillness, he realized something heavy. Every time she spoke those words, she was pulling him further from himself. The rain kept falling. The silence grew heavier. And in that moment, he didn't need closure. He just needed the strength to turn the key and finally drive away. Most men think leaving means giving up. They think walking away means they weren't strong enough to fix it, patient enough to understand her, or loving enough to hold it together. But here's the truth. Staying when the respect is gone isn't love. It's self-abandonment, and that's what's really killing men inside relationships today. You've been taught to earn love by proving your worth, to fight harder when she pulls away, to show her that you care no matter how she treats you. But that belief keeps you trapped in cycles of emotional chasing, trying to convince someone to value what they've already decided to take for granted. You don't win respect by overextending yourself. You win it by being willing to walk away when it's no longer mutual. She didn't ghost you. You disappeared from yourself. Every time you ignored your intuition, every time you swallowed your truth just to keep her happy, you slowly dimmed your own light. Here's another lie, that a real man never gives up on a woman. No, a real man doesn't give up on himself for a woman. There's a difference. You can love deeply and still walk away with calm. That's what real strength looks like. The man who knows his worth doesn't need to yell it, prove it, or beg for it. He lives it quietly through his choices. You're not leaving because you stopped caring. You're leaving because you finally started caring about yourself. And when you reach that point, when peace feels more valuable than attention, everything changes. Sometimes love ends softly, not in shouting, not in chaos, but in the quiet decision that says, I'm done explaining why I deserve to be treated right. The 1% headman doesn't flinch when words test him. He doesn't chase reassurance, and he doesn't try to argue his value. He understands that a man's power is never proven through reaction. It's revealed through restraint. This is what he understands. Not every conversation deserves his energy. Not every woman who speaks to him deserves access to his emotions. He's grounded in who he is, so when she says something designed to provoke, confuse, or test, he doesn't spiral. He observes. He knows the difference between emotional honesty and emotional manipulation. He listens, but he's not pulled. He feels, but he's not controlled. While most men panic when they feel distance, the headman does the opposite. He slows down. He gets quieter inside, because he knows that stillness is a man's greatest weapon in chaos. This is how he leads with presence, not pressure. He doesn't beg her to stay. He invites her to meet him at his level, and if she can't, he lets her go with grace, not resentment. He doesn't interpret leaving as loss. He sees it as alignment. He knows that peace isn't something you find, it's something you protect. He's not chasing women. He's cultivating standards. He knows that words only have power when you doubt who you are. And since he's rooted in self-respect, no phrase, no threat, no test can shake him. This is the mindset that separates the 1% headman from the rest. He's not trying to win her over, and he's mastering himself, because when you truly embody calm strength, you stop fearing who leaves. You realize that the only person who was ever supposed to stay was you. It happens quietly. Not in some dramatic breakup, not in a shouting match, but in a moment so ordinary that no one else would notice it but you. She says something, maybe a small jab, maybe another cold, careless phrase you've heard before, and instead of feeling that familiar pain, something inside you just stops. You don't argue this time. You don't explain, justify, or chase. You just sit there still, as if your body finally caught up to what your soul has been trying to say for months. And in that silence, something shifts. You realize you've been here before. Not just with her, but in every situation where you gave too much of yourself. You remember all the times you swallowed your truth just to keep the peace. All the times you softened your edges so no one would call you too much. You remember how you started editing yourself to fit her comfort zone. How you began apologizing for the parts of you that once made you powerful, and that's when it hits you. It was never about her words. It was about your silence. Every time she tested you, every time she said something that chipped away at your confidence, you thought love meant proving your loyalty. But love was never meant to be proven through pain. You sit back breathing deeper than you have in weeks. The tension in your chest loosens. The noise in your head goes quiet. For the first time, you're not trying to win her back or decode what she meant. You're just seeing things clearly. You see the way you used to look at her, like she was the prize, and you realize with a soft ache that the real prize was the man you used to be before you started needing her validation. You remember that man now, steady, focused, grounded, the man who didn't need anyone to remind him of his worth. You look around and notice the small things, the weight of your breath, the stillness of the room, the strength it takes to not react, and it dawns on you. This is what power feels like. Not control, not anger, just quiet certainty. You remember all the words she said that used to break you. You've changed. You're too much. I just need space. And now they don't sting, they sound hollow, because they no longer echo inside a man who doubts himself. You think back to the version of you that used to beg for closure, the man who couldn't sleep until he got a text back, the one who kept believing that if he just loved harder, she'd finally understand. And you can't help but feel a quiet sadness for him, not because he was weak, but because he was pure, because he believed love meant sacrifice, when really it meant clarity. You take one last look at her, maybe in person, maybe just in memory, and you finally see her without the fog of attachment. She's not the villain. She's just a mirror that reflected what you needed to see, how far you drifted from yourself. And that realization doesn't hurt, it heals. Because now you know, leaving isn't the end. It's the moment you return to your own life. You stand up differently now. Your shoulders feel lighter. There's a quiet calm in your chest. You don't need to announce your decision or prove your strength. The silence between you says everything. For the first time in a long time, you're not waiting for her to change. You're remembering who you were before you forgot your own worth. You spent so long trying to read her words, trying to understand what she meant, hoping the right response would make her stay. But now you see it. It was never about what she said. It was about what you ignored in yourself. Her words were the test. Your silence was the answer. And when you finally choose peace over proving, something inside you unlocks, the part that no longer needs to be chosen to feel worthy. Because in the end, the strongest man isn't the one she stays for. It's the one who walks away and never looks back.